Hi there, and welcome back to my Krystal Stargate series, which is an analysis of the recently uploaded video, Crystalline Samhain 1111 Stargate, November 11th, 2019. So I was speaking about this being a Stargate moment, Stargates within Stargates, portals within portals, explaining what they are and how to access them, and the symptoms and experiences you may have when those portals are there, and how to move into 0 point field awareness so that you're always in that portal. So this larger portal, the cosmic moment, December 21st, 2012, the winter solstice, summer solstice, depending which hemisphere you are in. And then this specific Krystal Stargate being from 31st of October Samhain, peaking on the 7th of November, peaking fully on the 11/11, the 11th of November, dissipating to a point on the 13th of November, but remaining within that energy as we go into another very high energy spike, which is the solstice, winter solstice, or summer solstice, depending where you are in the world. So I'm continuing with the analysis. So the next part of this transmission was, all comes online for you as inner technology cannot be destroyed, hijacked, changed, stolen, reduced, redacted, or removed. So I'm going to go through that somewhat. Coming online for you really is a metaphor for activation and awareness and the ability to access that inner organic technology. So when it's offline, it's dormant, you don't have access to it, doesn't mean it isn't there. Online means it's activated. So all comes online for you, as in everything is activated at this time, the time of these portals. So the 9 go on to say how this inner technology, talking about the pineal gland, the endocrine system, the neurotransmitters, the brain pathways, and all the inner technology, that ability to work with an energetic frequency that receives and radiates and decodes information and creates templates and imagery that is a pre-matter template for your actual reality. So the greater reality does this, but we do this as well because we are part of that greater reality. So once we come online, we become little mini creators like the larger creator, as we're a fractal aspect of them, sitting within that energy, them, it, the I am presence, all of that source frequency, sitting within it as one of those little Russian dolls that sit inside one another. We sit inside the greater body of the higher being, if you like, and we once we come online and in alignment with it, we can do what they does do, which is create. So that's what's happening. And that inner technology cannot be destroyed. It cannot be hijacked. When the 9 is saying destroyed, it can't be destroyed. It's impossible. It can be removed from your access. Hijacked. So it cannot be hijacked once you come online, but it has been hijacked within those that are offline, if you will. So once you come online, you are no longer hijackable. You're immune from hijacking. This is explained more deeply in my very first book, Transmission from the 9 Masters of the Matrix. Explains all about the hijacking and how to create immunity from it. Changed. So it can't be altered and changed when you come online, when that energy comes online. But obviously it has been for those who are offline, and that's how the service to self groups have worked in order to maintain the inverted matrix through hijacking and changing that inner technology. Stolen. So again, it can't be taken from you. It can't be stolen. You own it. It's with you all the time. No one can touch it. No one can take it. No one can steal it. No one can do anything to it behind your back without you being aware of it, without your conscious knowledge and permission. because it is all that is you and it's online. So it's immune from all of this. But obviously, to those who are offline, that inner technology can be changed, hijacked, stolen, reduced. Now, I spoke earlier about how the DNA template, the full 144,000 template, 12-strand template within that full central 13-strand activation point, has been reduced down to a double helix. So that's a reduction. Now, what's actually happened there is it's never been taken away. It's not like, say we've got 12 strands here. It's not like 10 strands were taken away and you were only left with 2. That's the experience. But really, it was more of a 10-strand template being in shadow, dormant, still there. It's always been there, but inaccessible. When you awaken to the higher dimensional consciousness and everything that I've been talking about in this analysis, and you activate that higher strand DNA formation, then that reduction is no longer there. That system can't be reduced anymore. It flourishes back to its original and in a new form, flower of life, full activation, 144,000 warriors of light, template, code, all of those things. Redacted. So redacted is something that's blanked out. Now, that occurs within those that are offline and those who've been offline and haven't had access to the inner technology. So it's a redacting, it is a blanking out of the main structure of that DNA template, and thus the inner technology. But when you come online at the time of these portals and you move into that alignment, that redaction, that blanking out doesn't take place. You see all, you have all, you flow with all removed. So having that removed, as I said, it doesn't actually get removed from you, but it gets removed from your ability to access it. So all these words, destroyed, hijacked, changed, stolen, reduced, redacted, or removed, is how you would explain what has happened and what still occurs for those who are offline, if you will, third dimensionally grounded, in a sense where they are not grounded in the way a balanced individual is, but grounded in the sense that they are bound to the third dimension, weighted down. And once you release that, you're no longer bound in that sense, you're no longer weighted down. That's when you access your wings and fly. So all these metaphors are they're actually true if you decode what they mean. They're not just metaphors for a feeling or an emotion. They're metaphors for an actual physiological change within the body. So continuing on, indeed, that which was intended as suppression simply became storage. So that's really important, because as I was saying earlier in this analysis, the service to self groups, it had an intention to suppress, and they wanted that suppressed, I won't say permanently, but they didn't really have any thought as to whether that would be permanent or not. Their agenda was the focus. So suppression, as long as the agenda could take place, and then it wouldn't make any difference what occurs once the agenda has taken place, which is the creation of a negative dimensional state that permeates through the third dimension. So it's a control structure to the point where they are at the apex of that and have full control. That agenda has only been partially reached, and it has been reached in smaller areas in a fuller sense, but it's never been fully reached as yet on this planet, and it won't be. So that agenda has never been fully realized. And if you want to interpret that into a third dimensional sense, looking perhaps at the agenda for that sort of control structure, it would be something like a one world government. It would be a one world government. It would be super states all governed by the same government. That hasn't occurred, although they've had that control in that sense. It's never been out in the open, one world government. And the way to achieve that for them is for the people to ask for it. We want a one world government and we want to be in superstates. So they have to be unhappy with where they are to get that. They have to be unhappy with the other governments and unhappy with the communities and the countries and the boundaries and the politics. And then they cry en masse for the one world government and the superstates. That's still the agenda of the service to self groups. However, with the awakening of the starseeds and all of these individuals that are activating their inner organic technology, it's making the job harder and harder and harder, to the point now of critical mass where the timeline for this planet is being generated, if you will, no longer by an inverted matrix system and a control structure, but an aware, activated, service to others, positively polarized humanity, a star-seeded humanity. So from that perspective, which you hold in your mind's eye in order to create, the timeline is the trajectory the star seeds are on, and that timeline never, ever, ever manifests super states and a one world government in the third dimensional reality experienced. So that's what is occurring for us right now. So when the nine are saying, indeed, that which was intended as suppression simply became storage. So what was intended to be suppressed for a specific period of time, or potentially permanently, there was no agenda on the length of it other than in order to complete their agenda, it simply became storage. So that only means it's suppressed if the individual holding that that was whatever it was that was suppressed, the code, the DNA configuration, the individual holding it had to be participatory within the suppression itself. And the way they did that was by hijacking the system. So the individual is then linked to the system, believing the system is reality, and becomes participatory within their own suppression. Once an individual moves into an awakening, they're no longer participatory in their own suppression. They're actually participatory in their own expansion and evolution and mastery and omnipresence and empowerment. So that's what's happened. So that suppression became storage. It was simply stored. And what is storage? It's simply an item that can be unlocked and opened and all the contents retrieved whenever you choose. So storage wasn't what they intended. They intended suppression as in an inaccessible, fully inaccessible suppression. And the only way they could achieve that is if the individual was participatory in their own suppression. So the nine go on to say, as the time capsule within bone. So this is where the code went into the bone structure, the skeletal structure, like a time capsule. The time capsule is a little something, I'm sure you all know what that is. You bury it in the garden or wherever, and then 20 years later or 100 years later, somebody opens it up and reads whatever message is in there or retrieves whatever contents are in there. So it was a time capsule, as in it never left you. It was suppressed within your bone and you could choose when to open it. And what's so interesting about this is the bone codex within an individual, if that individual is not tampered with, if the bone structure is not tampered with through dark magic, black magic, that is a whole other subject. But to touch on it incredibly briefly, you could take someone's skeletal system and tamper with it through dark technology to prevent, And what this does is it hijacks the reincarnational line, because in an organic reincarnation, your bone structure will contain the codices from your last lifetime. So you'll incarnate again. It's not just the memory system within the auric field or the matrix that is retained. It's the structure within bone, and that's retained through the cohesion of memory when you pass through the death experience. And when you reincarnate, that memory system, which is a pre-matter substance, it is a pre-matter memory substance, then becomes matter in the bone structure. So if the bone structure is infiltrated via this dark technology, that can be prevented, and that is what has been done, especially to really advanced, spiritually aware and scientifically aware and technologically aware individuals, those who've studied like free energy, like Tesla, and other leaders, including leaders of indigenous peoples. However, the individuals who were aware and awakened thousands of years ago, they learned about this. They knew about this because they could access that higher knowledge. And so they found ways to counteract the dark technology. And so there was always a way for them to be free from that. It was never something that they were fully entrapped within and couldn't get out of once they became aware. And that's the case now. The minute you become aware, it's freedom. You are immune from entrapment. So as I have said in Masters of the Matrix, that is explained in more depth directly from the 9, but you know, that's what all this means. So that memory structure, that pre-matter code coming in from a previous incarnation, was regenerated in a dormant sense within bones. It's the same thing as the DNA, but specifically in the skeletal system, like a time capsule. So it became a storage system that could always be accessed. One of the ways that individuals were able to ensure that that code would move back into a new incarnated skeletal system was through cohesion of memory. Once cohesion of memory takes place, whether you are incarnated in a body or outside of a body, it creates a fail-safe mechanism. I would say protection, but that's not as an aligned word as a fail-safe mechanism that prevented the hijacking of the skeletal system within the body they had just released from. So there were ways that the skeletal system could be preserved and the dark magic didn't work on it, or the skeletal system wouldn't be found. It would be completely inaccessible and utterly hidden from the dark system. And their technology only worked to a point. It wasn't a multi-dimensional technology and isn't now. It's only multi-dimensional in the sense that it works within the 4th dimension as well as the 3rd, but it doesn't work beyond that. There is a very small part of the 5th dimension where it may infiltrate. It's you know, if you want to see it as a layer, it would be, if you see it as a landscape, it would be the floor. You know, once you raise up off the floor and move into the sky of that 5th dimensional landscape, you're untouchable. And that's where all the starseeds are. They're in the higher echelons of the 5th dimension. Many are betwixt the 5th and 6th dimension, and the 9 say betwixt because that's a code in itself, and it is a powerful word and a memory activation trigger. So the 9 go on to say this is a key coded trigger, and just explained what that is, and I've also explained what a key coded trigger is in the previous parts of this analysis. This is a key-coded trigger of the highest import for you at this time. So hear this now, heed this now, and allow this to be received, processed, and understood. So this is a key-coded trigger of the highest import. And again, the 9 use import rather than importance. Again, it's got a depth to it because it's a word that's been used for longer. So it has a higher awareness to it from a longer stream of humanity. So it holds more weight and impact and code to it. So betwixt rather than between, import rather than important, because these are longer used words, so have a higher depth. Tough to explain, but that's the best way I can kind of do it, really, to explain why they use these words. This is a key-coded trigger of the highest import for you at this time. So this is of the highest import for you now, not necessarily thousands of years ago or 100 years ago or 10 years ago. Now, this is important now in this crystal portal, this crystal Stargate. So hear this now. So when the 9 say this, they're drawing your attention to this particular bit of information. Whether you understand it or not, you receive the code for that. And that code is the releasing, the assistance to the releasing of the stored memory within bone and creating your pre-matter template. You don't have to wait until you leave an incarnation to regenerate the pre-matter template back into the new skeletal system of the new incarnation. You retrieve it now from the incarnation you're in and create with it. As if you were already in the antimatter realm and outside of the physical body, you do it when you're in the physical body. So that's why it's important now, because that's the ascension process on a collective level. So hear this now, heed this now. So they're saying, hear what they're saying, heed it, pay attention, listen, and allow this to be received. So you receive the energy, you process the energy, and you understand the energy. So that's why I am doing the analysis for this, and that's why people were asking me to do an analysis, because this will assist you to heed, receive, process, and understand why this is of the highest import. The fact that the inner technology, the higher DNA, fully activated DNA strand template, was intended to be suppression. It ended up as storage, something you could always access. And then the 9 go on to say, we ask our conduit to say this again, slowly, clearly, succinctly, so you may catch the code. That is the very essence of the 12-strand crystalline pattern through lunar streams and rainbow waves. So I've explained the 12-strand crystalline pattern in previous analysis. I've explained the lunar streams and the rainbow waves. And in the transmission, the 9 were bringing forward that that's what they wanted me to say. That which was intended as suppression simply became storage, as the time capsule within bone. The reason why they want me to say this is the code that you hear allows you to become fully aware, gives you an epiphany. Oh, I have a cellular memory matrix stored within bone that was suppressed there deliberately. Now I'm aware of this. I can release this, because the awareness is the releasing. So the 9 said again, we say again, allow this to penetrate through all that you are. Let it penetrate through all that you are, your mind, your awareness, your body, your energy system outside of you, your connection with source. Allow this to penetrate through all that you are, so that you may know the extent of the game. So this is for you to know the extent of the game. It's time now that we know the extent of the game. So on a 3rd dimensional level, we've got a lot of information, and 4th dimensional as well. There's a lot of information about the deep state and what they're up to politically and what they do to hijack the system. But that's not the extent of the game. That's just part of it. That's the third dimensional part of it, and the fourth dimensional part of it. It goes deeper into the ways they used the ways they use their dark technology and their black magic, if you like, dark magic, to create the inverted matrix. There are many individuals that have been incarnated here to deliver messages specifically in certain areas. So you'll have individuals that are there to decode perhaps messages that are coming in from third dimensional information data streams like Q. There are individuals that have incarnated specifically to decode Q. That's one of their missions. There are others that have come here to teach the third dimensional hijacking politically. So they're here to talk about the political system and what's going on. And there are others that come to talk about the deep state and who they are and what they've done on a physical level. There are so many different aspects to the game. And there are individuals who are here to speak about what's behind all that, the fourth dimensional hijacking. With the 9, they come in to teach the dark magic itself. And that's a difficult one to do. And I've been given training for this for many years. And from the 9, because I had to train myself first before I could deliver this information. And it's difficult because when you are delivering teachings of dark magic, you can create the dark magic if you are not careful. So you have to understand how to deliver a teaching without creating it. You have to be very sort of, I won't say strong, but you have to be very cohesive and focused with the pineal gland and what it's creating. And there are many, many ways to train yourself if you are interested in learning about this darker technology, this darker way of holding the matrix, which the 9 teach, and I teach through them, their teachings. There are things that you can do to strengthen the pineal gland in its ability to create a copy of itself and create a reality. Now, this is not for everyone to do, and it's actually not for the majority of starseeds to do, unless you feel a calling that this is something you need to learn and this is something you need to teach. It is a male path. It is a masculine path. Very few females will be able to teach this path. It is a masculine path. Women do not have the mindset to teach it. However, there are some females, I'm one of them, who are able to teach this masculine path. And it isn't done by being masculine, it's done by accessing the deepest divine feminine energy that you possibly can. But it is a masculine way of thinking, and the way of thinking is very much about the focus. Females are emotionally focused, predominantly. And they're healers and they are nurturers and mothers and all of those things. And it's beautiful. And we need that energy in abundance. The male energy is a focus, and it is a goal-orientated, step-by-step focus. It's not possible for an incarnated heterosexual female to fully align with that focus all the time. But it is possible for a incarnated heterosexual female to be able to understand how that works and to utilize that way of thinking without compromising her divine feminine energy. And there are star-seeded females like me who are able to do this. I was very lucky that I had a wonderful teacher in my father and other activated males within my life that I've known as friends and mentors that have helped me without me actually knowing what I was learning at the time. And of course, the 9. So one way of doing this, there are many ways of finding this focus. if you are a female that wants to learn to hold that male focus, one way would be to work with a male partner, and you would sit in open-eyed meditation looking at that male partner. So you'd have male, female, and you would be looking at that male partner, and you would map their thought process. You would empathically, telepathically, clairvoyantly map their thoughts. And then you would learn to place them within yourself. It's a really challenging, difficult, and can be not a pleasant experience either. It's really challenging and difficult. If you're meant to do this, you probably will have already done it by now in your reality and in your life, unless you're young and you're a teenager or a child, and then you may yet have that to occur for you, and vice versa, the male and female. When I say heterosexual, some homosexual women are naturally able to do this because they have more of a male patterning naturally, so they won't need to map the thought process and the mind of a male. They'll already be able to do it. So, you know, there are starseeds out there doing this regardless of their gender expression. And remember, if you are an activated individual, you're not just creating a reality for yourself, you are adding to the collective, and you are creating a reality for the collective. So it's incredibly important that you are very careful with what you do. However, if you are cohesive, you will be given those boundaries and all of that cosmic etiquette, and you can't really get it wrong or make a mistake, because once you are, just like anything else that you're trained in, once you have the training, then you know what to do, and your guidance system will assist you with this, and they are the absolute best collective to assist you with this teaching if it's something that you're interested in. You train your pineal gland. To be honest, it's just like going down the gym and building muscle. You're training your pineal gland muscle to take an image, and you choose which image is mapped into your reality system, or which image goes into a creation, goes into a creational matrix that then becomes your reality. Bliss charged love is what you're using. You're using love, light, light, love, bliss charged love template to remap that, so that everything you create for yourself and into the collective, a fifth dimensional frequency would be love hearts, roses, a goddess, Merlin the magician, a crystal palace. So you'd be opening up to compassion and love and joy. And then you could go for the geometry. So you would take the geometric patterns as well. You could use Metatronic, the Metatron's cube. You could use the flower of life. And it only serves to teach you more about how to work with that inner technology. So that's a really interesting teaching there. It is the sword of Excalibur, energetic. You become a knight of the round table. So the knight of the round table path isn't just for men. Women can take that path as well. But the majority of females incarnated here are Guinevere. They are the maiden. They are the damsel in distress, if you like, that's rescued by the knight. But some women can take that path, or they can be empathic with it and recognize it and work with it in a twin flame capacity with a knight of the round table as their twin, without necessarily living it. It does not take away your femininity. It enhances your femininity, actually. So I will repeat again this very important code that the 9 delivered here within this transmission, that's so very important. Explaining that this is for you to know the extent of the game, the entrapment, and the false matrix, and all that it hinged upon and stood for. So that code is there, to act as a catalyst to for an epiphany, to release that from the bone, but also so that you may know the extent of the game, the entrapment, the false matrix, and all that it hinged upon and stood for. That teaching in itself is also giving you insight into the extent of the game, the entrapment, the false matrix, and all that it hinged upon and stood for, because you can see how hijacking an individual by bombarding them with imagery that hijacks their inner technology so that their little cameras and photocopiers are working all over the place, manifesting realities that are completely distorted. You can see how the system has hijacked on a deeper level. So you've got the teachings about, oh, the system do the dark service to self groups, the deep state, they do this and they do that. But we're looking deeper at what they do. We're looking at what's behind that. We're looking at the technology. That's the dark magic. The teaching is about the pineal gland and the ability to understand what it is and what it does. It isn't something to sort of play with and have fun with and sort of try it out without having a pure heart. That's what the 9 mean all the time when they say you need a pure heart. Your pure heart is the reason you do this, the reason you do any of it, is to serve the collective in a positively polarized vibration. And if all of you holds that reason, that surrender, then that's a pure heart, because there's no agenda there. If your agenda is utterly to serve the collective in pure light, pure love, and service to others polarization, if you are in pure surrender to the higher guidance templates in the positive polarization of this reality, then you have a pure heart, because you have no agenda save the agenda of the Ascension Timeline Collective. So before I finish this analysis section, I will leave you with this code, as it's so important. That which was intended as suppression simply became storage, as the time capsule within bone. Thank you for listening. See you again soon.
In this transmission from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9, I, Magenta Pixie, bring forward information specific to utilising the rose gold flame as antidote to 5G, EMFs, chemicals, chemtrails, and similar. The presented template utilises the Schumann resonance, and the technique is alchemical unification. In this book, the 9 discuss synchronicity, discernment skills, and understanding of discordance and disharmony within truth and lightworker communities. They present a workable model of expression, assisting the spiritual explorer in creating a necessary toolkit. This allows the individual to construct a shield, bringing safety, harmony, expansion, and cohesive sovereignty into their own personal reality and their matrix field. I am pleased to present my new short book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote.